Chica Okafor was the kind of man Lagos respected. A wealthy businessman with sprawling real estate investments, a fleet of luxury cars, and a family name carried with pride. On the outside, he was a devoted husband to Ngozi and a father who attended Sunday service with his children. But beneath that polished exterior, Chica harbored a secret, Ifema. Ifema was not just any mistress. She was bold, ambitious, and intoxicatingly beautiful. She had waited years in the shadows, accepting hurried dinners in hidden restaurants, weekend getaways disguised as business trips, and whispered phone calls at midnight. For her, every stolen moment was a promise that one day she would no longer be hidden. That day seemed to arrive when Chica handed her a crisp envelope at his Ikoyi office. Inside, 2 tickets gleamed, first-class passes to an international luxury cruise. Ifema's heart pounded. "So it's real? Where going?" she asked, her voice trembling with triumph. Chica smirked, his pride feeding hers. A week of freedom. No questions. Just us. At the Lagos harbor, Ifema made sure her entrance was unforgettable. Draped in a fitted anchor gown with sequin borders, she clung to Chica's arm like a wife, not a secret. Her long braids flowed in the salty breeze, her lips painted crimson. People stared, and she loved it. For years, she had been mocked as the other woman, the hidden lover. But as she walked up the gangway of the ship with Chica, she felt reborn. Every step was a declaration. I am no longer in the shadows. I am here, and I belong. What she didn't know was that the sea has a cool way of exposing lies. The cruise ship was a floating kingdom. Chandeliers sparkled in the lobby, marble floors stretched endlessly, and violinists played soft melodies as waiters offered champagne on silver trays. Ifema's eyes widened with wonder. This wasn't just a holiday. This was her coronation. That night, Chica escorted her to the captain's gala. Ifema wore a flowing golden gown that shimmered under the lights. She laughed loudly, gesturing gracefully as she introduced herself to strangers. "This is my man," she said, proudly holding on to Chica. Her words tasted sweet in her mouth. She had fought hard for this recognition, and now it was hers. When another woman admired her diamond bracelet, Ifema tilted her chin higher. "A gift," she said smugly, flashing her teeth. She spoke like she had already claimed the seat of the wife, like Ngozi was nothing more than a forgotten story. Chica sat quietly, sipping wine. For him, this trip was supposed to be a daring escape from responsibility. But for Ifema, it was much more. It was her victory. On the balcony that night, overlooking the endless ocean, Ifema whispered, "This is just a beginning, Chica. Soon, everyone will know I'm the one." He kissed her forehead absent-mindedly, but in his chest, a strange unease stirred. By the 3rd day, Ifema noticed it. The way passengers glanced at her and Chica. Some eyes lingered too long. Some mouths whispered behind napkins. A group of elderly women even stopped their conversation mid-sentence when she walked by with Chica at breakfast. She leaned closer to him. "Why are they staring?" she hissed. Chica shrugged, but the sweat on his forehead betrayed him. The truth was, some of the passengers recognized him. Lagos society was smaller than it seemed, and Chica was a well-known figure. His wife, Captain Ngozi Okafor, had her own reputation as a disciplined, respected professional in the maritime world. But Ifema's pride refused to let her shrink. Instead of hiding, she became louder. She laughed with her head thrown back, clung tighter to Chica's arm, and paraded around the pool deck like a queen. "They are just jealous," she told herself. "They can't stand that I've taken what others only dream of." Yet when she lay awake at night in their luxury cabin, she couldn't shake the feeling that the ship itself was watching, that every wave crashing against the hull was whispering, "Your time will come." The welcome gala reached its climax on the 4th night. Passengers gathered in the grand hall for the ceremonial introduction of the captain. Ifema was in her element, her green silk gown hugging her curves as she sipped champagne. "This will be the best trip of our lives," she purred to Chica, who only gave a stiff nod. The lights dimmed, and the announcer's voice echoed, "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the commanding officer of this vessel." From the top of the grand staircase, a tall woman appeared, dressed in a crisp white captain's uniform. Her cap tilted slightly. She descended with grace. Her presence silenced the room. Her eyes, sharp and calculating, scanned the crowd, Ifema choked on her drink. Chica's glass slipped from his hand and shattered on the floor, because standing there, commanding the room with regal authority, was Ngozi, his wife. The whole erupted in murmurs. Ifema's fingers dug into Chica's arm. No, it can't be. But it was. The captain of the ship, the woman in control of every soul on board, was Ngozi Okafor. Her gaze swept the whole until it landed squarely on them. Calm, cold, knowing. In that single glance, Ifema felt stripped bare. The sweet pride she had carried turned instantly to acid in her throat. Ngozi descended the last step and approached the microphone. Her voice rang out, smooth and steady. Welcome aboard, everyone. I am Captain Ngozi Okafor, and it is my honor to guide you safely through this voyage. She paused, her eyes never leaving her husband and his mistress. Then, with the faintest of smirks, she added, a special welcome to my dear husband, Mr. Chika Okafor, and his guest. The whole went silent. Heads turned. Cameras flashed. Passengers gasped. Ifema's pride, which had shone so sweetly hours ago, shattered like glass. She felt exposed, humiliated, small. Chika's throat tightened. He tried to speak, but no words came. Whispers swept through the crowd. That's his wife? The captain. And that must be the mistress. Phones began to record, some already uploading the scandalous moment online. Ifema's chest burned with shame, yet she forced a stiff smile, gripping Chika's arm until her nails dug into his skin. Ngozi's calm expression cut deeper than fury ever could. She did not scream. She did not cry. She simply looked, and in that look was judgment, betrayal, and a power that no mistress could ever match. The sweet taste of Ifema's pride was gone. What replaced it was bitter, suffocating, unforgettable humiliation. After the gala, the ship's atmosphere shifted. Passengers who had once smiled at Ifema now avoided her gaze, whispering behind fans and menus. Some sneered openly, as though her humiliation had become the evening's entertainment. Chika barely spoke to her, his silence heavy, his shame thicker than the ocean air. But Ifema refused to collapse. Pride stitched her together, though cracks were showing. In their cabin, she raged. She humiliated us on purpose, in front of everyone. Chika snapped, what did you expect? She's my wife, and now she has the whole ship watching us. Ifema's pride twisted into desperation. She clung tighter to Chika, insisting they show themselves boldly on deck. But every corridor echoed with whispers. That's her. The mistress. The silent war had begun, and Ngozi fought it without lifting a finger. Every time she passed, her steady gaze cut deeper than any words. The days that followed exposed Ifema's weakness against Ngozi's authority. On deck, Ngozi's crisp uniform gleamed under the sun as she inspected her crew, her voice carrying calm confidence. Passengers saluted her with respect. Even in casual conversations, they praised her leadership, her grace, her strength. Ifema, meanwhile, was treated like an unwelcome guest. At dinner, no one asked her name anymore. At the pool, a woman muttered loud enough for her to hear, "Imagine the shame, traveling with another woman's husband." She clenched her fists, her pride screaming to lash out. But when she glanced up, she saw Ngozi on the upper deck, watching quietly, her arms folded. The sight silenced Ifema's fury. For the first time, she felt powerless. That night, she told Chika, "We need to leave this ship." He shook his head. "There's no leaving mid-sea. Ifema, you will have to endure it." His tone carried no comfort, no affection. Ifema realized she was alone in her humiliation. The whispers turned in nightmares. Ifema woke in the night drenched in sweat, dreaming of passengers pointing, laughing, and pushing her overboard. She dreamt of Ngozi standing at the helm, calm as Ifema sank into the waves. During the day, she began to notice details she had missed before. The crew's subtle smirks when she passed, the way passengers filmed her secretly on their phones, the endless shadow of Ngozi's presence. Pride that once felt sweet now gnawed at her. Chika grew distant, spending more time in the casino than with her. She felt abandoned, used, desperate. She clung to him at breakfast. "Don't leave me alone," she whispered. But he peeled her hand off his arm and muttered, "Stop drawing attention." For the first time since she boarded, Ephema doubted herself. Maybe she had overplayed her hand. Maybe the world was right. She would never be more than the mistress. The breaking point came one afternoon at the poolside. Passengers lounged in the sun while Ngozi, dressed sharply in her captain's whites, stopped to check on safety protocols. Someone asked her casually about the ship's rules regarding conduct. With a faint smile, she answered, "Every ship has codes. Honor, loyalty, truth. Without them, storms will tear you apart." Her words hung in the air. Heads turned toward Chica and Ephema, who sat stiffly by the pool. Someone chuckled. Another whispered, "She's talking about them." Heat rushed to Ephema's face. "She's mocking us," she hissed at Chica. He didn't answer, his eyes glued to the floor. Passengers openly stared now, their laughter thinly veiled. Unable to endure it, Ephema sprang up, her voice shaking. "Mind your business," she snapped at a group of women. Gas erupted. Phones recorded. Ephema stormed away, her heels clicking furiously against the deck. But her escape only made her look weaker. By dinner, everyone had seen the video. The proud mistress reduced to tears and rage, while the captain remained serene and untouchable. That night in their cabin, Ephema broke. She fell to her knees before Chica, her pride shattered. "Please, let's leave at the next stop. I can't stay here. They are all laughing at me." Her voice cracked with desperation. But Chica was a broken man, too. He buried his face in his hands. "Do you think I'm not humiliated? Do you think I can face my wife after this?" His words cut her deeply. He no longer said our escape. He said my wife. Ephema realized a bitter truth. She had fought for years to claim a man who would never truly be hers. The sweet taste of victory had turned to poison in her mouth. The mistress who once dreamed of becoming queen now begged to be invisible. But the sea was merciless. The journey was far from over, and Captain Ngozi had not yet delivered her final reckoning. The sea turned violent that night. Winds howled like angry spirits, waves slammed against the ship, and rain lashed the decks. Passengers clutched railings in panic as the vessel swayed dangerously. Ephema screamed when her champagne glass toppled and shattered, her body flung against the wall. She clung to Chica's arm, trembling. In the chaos, Ngozi stood firm on the bridge. Her voice rang out through the speakers. "Remain calm. Crew to stations. Passengers, secure yourselves." Even as the ship rocked, her commands were precise, confident, commanding trust. The crew obeyed instantly, passengers clinging to every word. Chica, drenched in sweat and fear, looked at her on the giant screen in the lobby. For the first time, he saw what real strength looked like. His wife wasn't just calm. She was the only anchor holding hundreds of lives steady in the storm. Ephema, meanwhile, wept openly. "We're going to die. She's going to let us drown." Her nails dug into Chica's skin as thunder roared. But the ship held, and slowly, under Ngozi's steady hand, the vessel cut through the angry sea. When the storm calmed hours later, applause broke out across the decks. Passengers cheered for their captain. Ephema, hair matted and mascara running, shrank in shame. Next in Ngozi's unshakable poise, her pride looked laughable. Morning revealed the aftermath. The storm had passed, but Ephema's mask had crumbled. Passengers who once whispered now laughed openly. "Did you see her crying?" one woman said. "The mighty mistress begging for life." Videos of her panic had already spread among the guests' private groups, replaying her desperation for all to see. Ephema tried to walk with her head high, but everywhere she went, people snickered. Her one sweet pride had turned into a public spectacle. Chica, avoiding eye contact, slipped away more often, leaving her alone. Desperate for validation, Ephema approached him in their cabin. "Chica, tell me I still matter to you." He sighed heavily, rubbing his temples. "Ephema, look around you. This trip was supposed to be our escape, but now it's a curse. I don't even recognize myself anymore." His words broke her. For the first time, she realized Chica wasn't her prize. He was her prison. On the upper deck, she spotted Ngozi speaking calmly with passengers, her authority earning admiration. Ephema felt a pang of jealousy, but deeper still, an ache of realization. She could never be this woman. Pride had blinded her to her own fragility. Late that night, Chica could no longer bear the weight of silence. He went to Ngozi's office, the very heart of her authority. She sat behind her desk in her white uniform, eyes sharp yet calm. He stood trembling, the once proud businessman reduced to a guilty husband. "I've shamed you," he confessed, voice heavy. "I thought I could escape, that no one would know. But you knew all along, didn't you?" Ngozi didn't flinch. "The sea always reveals truth, Chica. No secret sails forever." He sank into a chair, tears brimming. "I ruined everything. You didn't deserve this." Ngozi studied him, her silence more punishing than words. At last she spoke. "Do you think your shame belongs only to you? Look around. She has none left. And you gave her that pride. You fed it, watered it, and now you both are drowning in it." Chica bowed his head. Her calm pierced deeper than any anger. He realized forgiveness would not come easily, if it came at all. The next day, Ephema became the center of unwanted attention. Passengers, emboldened by a public collapse during the storm, confronted her with smirks and cruel remarks. "So, mistress, how does it feel to be second place?" One man jeered at the pool. Another woman mocked. "Sweet pride doesn't survive salt water, does it?" Unable to hold back, Ephema lashed out. "You don't know anything about me," she screamed, her voice cracking. Phones recorded instantly. Her desperation spread across the ship like wildfire. By evening, Ephema's breakdown had gone viral among the passengers. Clips showed her trembling, yelling, and breaking apart while captions read, "The mistress who thought she was queen." She collapsed in her cabin, sobbing, "They've destroyed me. Chica, everyone hates me." But when she looked for comfort, Chica was gone. He was with Ngozi, begging quietly for another chance. Ephema realized she was no longer even his distraction. She was only his regret. Unlike Ephema, Ngozi never raised her voice, never lashed out. She didn't need to. Her silence and dignity became her greatest weapons. Passengers admired her more each day. To them, she was not just a captain of the ship. She was a woman who had faced betrayal and still commanded respect. Ephema, in contrast, dwindled into shadows. Every time she tried to reclaim attention, Ngozi's calm presence outshone her. It wasn't revenge. It was power in its purest form. One evening, as the sun set crimson over the ocean, Ngozi stood at the helm, her posture tall and unbroken. Ephema watched from afar, her body slumped. Pride, once sweet, had dissolved into bitterness. She finally understood. She could never compete with a woman who didn't need to fight to win. Ngozi's victory wasn't loud. It was quiet, graceful, devastating. And for Ephema, that silence was the loudest humiliation of all. The cruise neared its end, but for Ephema, every hour dragged like eternity. She barely left her cabin. Whenever she appeared, the whispers followed. "There she is, the mistress." The same pride she once flaunted now felt like chains around her neck. Chica, unable to look her in the eye, spent his nights wandering the casino or bar. His once boisterous laugh was gone, replaced with a silence that spoke of defeat. Ephema confronted him one evening on the deck, the ocean breeze whipping her scarf. "Say something. Say I still matter to you." Chica's jaw tightened. He stared at the waves, his voice low. "I don't even know who I'm anymore. This trip, it was a mistake." Her knees nearly buckled. For years she had imagined this man as her savior, her escape. But now, abandoned even by him, she realized she was alone. Across the deck, Ngozi appeared briefly, her uniform immaculate, her eyes as steady as a horizon. She didn't say a word. She didn't need to. Her presence reminded Ephema of the gulf between them. That night, Ephema cried herself to sleep. Pride had brought her here. Pride had destroyed her. When the ship docked at its final port, the scandal had already sailed ahead of them. Passengers who filmed Ephema's outburst and Chica's shame uploaded everything online. By the time Chica stepped onto the pier, Lagos elites were buzzing. Business partners whispered. Clients pulled back. The man who once walked into boardrooms with swagger now faced ruin. News outlets picked up the story. Business mogul exposed at sea. Wife commands ship, mistress in shame. The headline spread like wildfire. Investors began calling to withdraw. Contracts slipped through his fingers, and even his closest associates avoided his calls. For Ephema, the ruin felt even sharper. The man she believed was a ticket to glory was collapsing in front of her. Instead of being his queen, she became the face of his disgrace. On the pier, when Chica tried to hold her hand, she snatched it away. "You destroyed me," she hissed, her voice trembling. But even as she blamed him, she knew she had chosen this path. Back in Lagos, Ephema couldn't walk the streets without stays and whispers. Her friends avoided her. Invitations vanished. Women who once envied her beauty now mocked her downfall. Sweet pride turned bitter shame. One socialite laughed at a party, loud enough for Ephema to hear. Chica had no time for her. He was busy fighting for his business, begging bankers, pleading with lawyers, grasping at straws. Ephema sat alone in her small flat, scrolling through cruel comments online. Photos of her crying on the ship circulated endlessly. Memes mocked her as a mistress who drowned in pride. One morning, she packed her bags quietly. She left without telling Chica, disappearing into the city. Pride had promised her a crown. Instead, it left her with nothing. No man, no friends, no respect. She became a shadow of the woman who once flaunted diamonds and gowns on a cruise ship. Meanwhile, Captain Ngozi returned to Lagos with her head high. The scandal had painted her as a wrong but unbroken wife. Admirers praised her strength. Women hailed her as a symbol of dignity, and her reputation as a leader soared even higher. She never once gave interviews, never boasted. Her silence was her victory. In private, she focused on her children, ensuring their lives remained untouched by their father's shame. She didn't throw insults, didn't plot revenge. She let the truth stand on its own. Chica, broken and diminished, tried to see her. He begged for another chance. She listened, her face calm. Then she said only, "Trust, once broken, is not repaired by words. It is rebuilt by actions, if it is rebuilt at all." That calm refusal hurt him more than rage ever could. She didn't need to destroy him. His choices had done that already. Time passed, but the lessons of the voyage lingered. Chica's empire never fully recovered. His name, once spoken with admiration, now carried shame. He lived with a bitter knowledge that the very escape he planned had destroyed him. Ephema vanished from society. Rumors swirled. Some said she moved to another city. Others whispered she tried to reinvent herself under a new name. But those who remembered her saw not the glamorous mistress she tried to be, but the woman whose pride was crushed under the captain's gaze. As for Ngozi, she thrived. She continued to command ships, respected by all who sailed with her. Her story became a quiet inspiration, a reminder that dignity speaks louder than scandal. In the end, the mistress's pride had looked sweet, but when the captain's eyes met his, it soured into the bitterest humiliation. The sea revealed the truth, and once it surfaced, nothing could bury it again.